My name's Tate Bradfield and I've been guiding and outfitting for most of my adult life. During that time, I've been on around 130 elk kills, and I've seen elk shot with anything from a .243 up to a .50 BMG. Today, I'm going to be talking about 6 of my favorite calibers. Let's get into it. It's mid-August right now and it's like 95 degrees. Archery season for elk is just around the corner, but just around the corner from that is rifle season for elk. I'm going to be breaking down why I think these 6 cartridges are the best ones for elk hunting. These are my opinions, and this is what I've seen work very, very well, but there's a ton of calibers that would kill elk, and it really doesn't matter which one you choose as long as it's .243 or larger and you're confident out to ethical ranges. Joining us today is going to be my friend, Billy the Bull. Say hello, Billy. This year I have a lot of elk hunts that I'm going to go on. I've got a few archery hunts that I'm going to guide, a few rifle hunts that I'm going to guide, and I've got 2 elk tags for myself personally this year that are either archery or rifle. I've also got some friends that I'm going to go on to the Frank Church Wilderness in Idaho, and we're going to get it done there. Something to remember is that bullet choice matters as much, if not more, than caliber choice. I personally like a nice bonded bullet for elk hunting because I like the bullet to carry all the way through the animal, because even when the bullet stops inside the animal, elk usually don't go down. Usually you have to put 2 or 3 in them or just shoot them once and wait for them to go down. But having that blood trail from the bullet going all the way through the animal, that's my preference. I've shot elk with a lot of different bullets. They all work, or most of them work really well anyway, but bonded bullets are probably my favorite. I'm gonna break this down. We're gonna go light, medium, and heavyweight cartridges, and we're gonna talk about some pluses and minuses of using each one on elk and my favorite calibers in each category. Some of you might be a little bit surprised by the calibers that I choose and the ones that are my favorite ones to use, but I took a few things into account here. One of them is availability of ammunition. The next is availability of bullet choice, and some of these calibers are just made in a wide variety of gun manufacturer choices. I was recently discussing elk calibers with somebody and they told me I should not take availability of ammunition into account because you're only going to be shooting your elk cartridge a few times a year. That's not a good thing, guys. If you can only shoot your rifle a few times a year, pick a different cartridge. A .308 is going to be better than a .300 Win Mag if you can shoot it more. Practice, practice, practice. If you haven't already, go check out Rolling Bones Outdoors. For $150, they will put you in for unlimited draws in unlimited states for unlimited species. That is a heck of a good deal. And they'll also give you a ton of discounts on guided, semi-guided, and DIY hunts. Reach out to me at the email below and I will be sure to help you answer any questions. I will be in charge of your account and be able to help you with any of your hunting needs. The first bullet choice is going to make a lot of people angry. It's a 6.5 Creedmoor. I have had one person lose an elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor, but the elk didn't die. He shot it right between the lungs and the spine in no man's land and it ran away. Every other elk that has been shot with a 6.5 Creedmoor has died. Now I say the 6.5 Creedmoor because it has a wide range of bullet types and availability of ammunition is through the roof. The other thing is it's a light kicking gun. It's great for youth. I would much rather have a very confident youth with a 6.5 Creedmoor than a very scared youth with a .300 Win Mag. The same goes for many new hunters and old hunters alike. Having a good caliber that you're confident in is usually better because then your shot placement's going to be better as well. A 6.5 Creedmoor is plenty to kill an elk. Now that being said, a lot of people get overconfident with the 6.5 Creedmoor. Because it has very, very good long-range ballistics, people think that a 6.5 Creedmoor is a good long-range elk cartridge. I don't think I'd ever shoot at an animal with anything out of a 6.5 Creedmoor past 500 yards. And I prefer to keep it 400 yards or less, so that it still has enough knockdown power to potentially go all the way through the elk. The longest shot I've ever had a client take at an elk, or myself personally, is 470 yards at a bull elk. That bull died in about 30 yards. He took a few steps and tumbled over. And the 6.5 Creedmoor is a very, very affordable gun to shoot. This is a Ruger American and a 6.5 Creedmoor. The gun itself only cost me about $450 when I bought it. They're a little bit more expensive than that now, maybe $650. And this is only about a $150 scope, which I took the turret off and I got to put that back on, remind me, honey. I'm going to shoot every animal that I kill this year with this gun. And I'm going to post it all on YouTube to prove that you don't need an expensive rifle or expensive cartridges or lots of knockdown to go and hunt in the West. The next lightweight caliber is a 7mm 08. This is probably my favorite lightweight elk caliber, as well as my favorite lightweight deer caliber. It just has such good ballistics with a wide variety of bullet choices. You could go from shooting 180 grain bullet subsonic all the way down to 120 grain bullet, which makes it very, very versatile from antelope, deer, elk, but especially for elk. You get a 140 grain bullet in a 7mm 08. There's not much better as far as lightweight calibers. I had a client from Michigan come out a few years ago, and he ended up shooting an elk, but he'd never shot over 100 yards in his entire life. I was able to take him from never shooting over 100 yards to shooting targets at 800 yards within a few hours, and he ended up killing an elk at about 300 yards. A perfect shot. The 7mm 08 has enough knockdown power to knock an elk over at 500 yards and in. I wouldn't recommend shooting with almost any rifle past 500 yards because most shooters are just not capable of taking ethical shots at that range. But the 7mm 08 is an awesome elk round. Next is the never forgotten 30-06. The 30-06 does kick quite a bit more than those lighter rounds, but it has a good amount of knockdown power, and it's also a pretty good youth round. The 30-06 has been around since 1906, and it was developed originally for the military, but now is pretty much obsolete in the military world and is almost completely used by hunters. The 30-06 is probably one of the most versatile calibers in the world right now. You'd be surprised to know that people regularly use a 30-06 to shoot brown bears and grizzlies in Alaska, given they're using 180 to 220 grain bullets. If it'll kill a grizzly, it's gonna kill an elk. Bullet weights range from all the way from 110 grain bullet all the way up to 225, maybe even a 250 grain bullet if you wanted to shoot subsonic. I personally like 165 to 180 grain bullet in a 30-06. It hits elk hard. Usually if you use a bonded bullet, it'll go right through them out to ranges of 400 yards or in. And it's just an awesome, awesome round and very, very versatile round. Can kill many different types of animals. It's important to remember that in these midweight cartridges, they may not be the best for a first-time hunter. A lot of times what happens when people shoot these bigger cartridges is they flinch and then their shot placement goes off. It is more important to have good shot placement and accuracy than to have a big, large caliber weapon. Some of you may say, it's best to get the biggest bullet you can possibly shoot and shoot that. I disagree with that. The one that you can shoot most accurately, that's gonna be the one I'm gonna go with. The reason I say light, medium, and heavy is because of foot-pounds of felt recoil. A midweight cartridge is gonna be anything from about 18 foot-pounds all the way up to 27 foot-pounds in my mind. So the next round that is my personal favorite elk hunting round is the 7mm mag. I've seen more one-shot kills with a 7mm Remington mag than any other hunting cartridge. I think it's such a good elk killing cartridge because it mixes good speed with high bullet weight, up to 195 grain bullets. Usually the heaviest I would shoot out of a 7 mag would be 180 grain bullets, and I usually use Burgers. Now, I know that's not a bonded bullet, and I said I prefer bonded bullets, but Burgers tend to behave quite well out to longer ranges. At shorter ranges, 200 yards or less, I actually don't prefer them, but most of my shots or elk are taken between 300 and 400 yards. The longest shot I've ever taken at an elk was 765 yards, and I took it with a 180 grain bullet out of a 7 mag. Now, I wouldn't normally take shots like this, but the elk was laying down, it wasn't going anywhere, and there was no chance it was gonna take a step. I knew the wind, it was a very accurately placed shot. The elk stood up, took 3 or 4 steps, and fell back down. Like I said though, most people shouldn't shoot past 500 yards, and I rarely do. In fact, I've only shot 3 animals past 500 yards, and I've killed many, many animals. So the 7 mag, awesome elk killing gun, wide variety of bullets, and many, many gun choices to choose from. Next, we're into the heavyweight cartridges. These probably won't shock you as to my 2 favorite picks for heavyweight cartridges. The first one is probably everyone's favorite for elk hunting, which is the 300 Win Mag. I do love the 300 Win Mag, and I've killed many elk with a 300 Win Mag. But like I said before, that heavier recoiling rounds usually makes people flinch. And I've also had more people take multiple shots at elk because they'd wounded them with large 30 caliber rifles than any other caliber choices. I once had a client shoot an elk 9 times with a 300 Weatherby mag. So be very, very careful that you're confident with that 300 Win Mag or that 300 PRC or 300 Rum before you take it elk hunting. Probably the favorite shot I've ever taken at an elk with a 300 Win Mag It was 430 yards. I was using a 220 grain bullet, which is a beast of a bullet. It put a thumb-sized hole right through the center of that cow's lungs. She still managed to run about 100 yards, but she was not going anywhere, and there was a blood trail like you would not believe. Last but not least is one of my favorite cartridges ever, the 300 PRC. It doesn't kick that much more than a 300 Win Mag, but it has amazing ballistics and can shoot some very, very large bullets. 225 grain bullets is nothing for the 300 PRC. Now, here's a disclaimer for the 300 PRC. Most people get overconfident with it and its ballistics, just as they do with the 6.5 Creedmoor and its ballistics. Don't shoot further than you're confidently able to shoot. If you've never shot 600 yards at anything, much less an animal, don't take a 600-yard shot. I think the 300 PRC is a fully capable elk cartridge out to 800 yards if the shooter is as capable as the cartridge. A 300 Win Mag is going to have about 28 to 34 foot-pounds of felt recoil, depending on the size of bullet and the powder charge you have in that rifle. And a 300 PRC is going to have right around 32 to 36 foot-pounds of felt recoil, maybe 38, but it's not that much more than a 300 Win Mag, and it has really, really good ballistics. They're both awesome elk cartridges. My favorite calibers are the midweight cartridges. The 270, the 7mm mag, the 30-06, 6.5 PRC, any of those are gonna be awesome, awesome elk cartridges. And it's not enough recoil that most people will flinch, but it's enough knockdown power that it's got a lot of oomph to kill an elk. It's really about preference. I'd much rather have somebody that was very confident with a 243 than somebody that couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with a 300 Win Mag. Subscribe to the channel and leave your comments below on what your favorite calibers are and what's worked for you in the past. Let me know what you think. Get out there, have fun, shoot lots, practice lots, and eat lots of Twinkies.